So why did you add those two elements? You know, the magic and the soft side with the animals and kids.
Um, well, at one point it was going to be a children's movie, and it was just going to be a fable about this kind of Geppetto-like character that, I was trying to think of what a trade, like, a woodcutter, a cobbler or something, a trade that this gentleman would have, and it was going to be about a man that basically could only communicate with people that didn't have a say in his life. And a lot of those traits have, have retained in the character that Al created here, because he only really enjoys people that don't have a vote. A cat or a little girl. I look at him like an 11-year-old, and as much as I've met people a lot. I've known a number of people like Manglehorn, and I worry that myself will be one day. And I worry just because of the negative attributes, because I think there's many very valuable positive attributes of this gentleman. But when we started out, we were thinking, Paul Logan, the writer I was working with on the project, developing this idea with, is we wanted it to be like a family movie about this guy that was reigniting his passion and had forgotten what love was because he'd romanticized it in his youth, and then had and then he meets the Holly Hunter's character, and then thus his instinct and passion for love is reborn. It ended up just kind of taking a very melancholy trail that is probably why there's no 7-year-olds in the audience tonight. Because it's not for kids, and it became a very the more we started, once we brought Al into the movie and we started talking to him about it and hearing his voice reading these scenes, part of the beauty of Pacino's process is he invites you and a bunch of his friends over to his house, and everybody grabs a script and we just read it out loud and workshop it and talk through it and see what's working and what's not working, and eat strawberries, which is amazing, and hanging out at Al Pacino's house, doing these type of exercises. As a fan of his, it's amazing, and as a collaborator of his. And so we just started taking it in a direction that felt very authentic to him and to us and to the way we wanted to tell the story. So it evolved quite a bit.
And how did Holly Hunter come into the picture?
I've just been a fan of Holly's. I think the first film I remember really falling for her was Raising Arizona, and I love The Piano, and so many broadcast news, so many of the great films she's done, and I wanted someone. She's like this big. She's like, you can put her in your pocket. She's tiny, and I love the idea that she's a powerful presence and a strong force of nature within a female character, and and Al, by the way, is pretty short himself, so you kind of have to thanks. So you kind of have to, and he's a short guy, but he's larger than life, and so you wanted someone that had. I wanted someone that was physically either way taller than him or way smaller than him, and so it limited our casting. And when I met Holly and just saw her physicality and her expressive qualities, and I knew there was this very emotionally available kind of ray of sunshine in her, and just the way she looks at you, and she just had this kind of connection that I thought could, in a realistic world, take a kind of melancholy character like Manglehorn and bring him out of his shell. At least early in the film, she's just someone he likes to see her every day. He goes to the bank, and that makes him happy. And then maybe there's a connection, maybe there won't be. But she's someone that I could realistically see in this kind of a relationship with him. And we were working backwards in that process as well, as trying to find someone that he could fall in love with that felt kind of realistic, like there's something about him that she sees, that she's drawn to. We all know those guys that are or girls that are difficult to love, and it kind of makes us love them all the more, or maybe we don't, but I do. The tricky ones, the tricky ones that you have to justify in front of some of your friends. You're like, just don't worry about this one, it's for me. And I think that's what Manglehorn is. And it was tricky to kind of come up with who that voice or that face would be. And I think Holly was just of the actresses that I was speaking to about it. She just really struck me as embodying this.
Yeah, I think she was a great choice. And it's interesting because Al, a lot of this movie is his speaking. and even if it's almost heard in voiceover, and a lot of her performance is just not speaking, just her expression, like that final scene at the it's really a great coming together of the two of them. One more thing I want to ask, and then I'll turn it over, but about the significance of two things in this movie. One, the bees, and two, the room off the kitchen.
Yeah, the bees was a remnant of the fable that I just really kind of fell in love with this strength, and I like the signature of like, regardless, the mailman's going to get in there, and he's going to get stung tomorrow, which sucks.
Right.
But I like that for Manglehorn, that's the romantic ending. Like I'm not worried about the mailman, I'm worried about my own heart right now. So like, so the bees was that like um, part of what we were trying to trigger with some of the magical elements of this movie. And I have to say, those were all real bees, and Al didn't give a shit. Literally, he got dirty in those bees and didn't get stung once. And I learned a lot of tricks. Bees are amazing, and you can just pick them up, and they're really nice if you don't get scared of them. But the second you're afraid of them and you go into them with anxiety and tension, they'll sting you. But I never got stung, and I was playing with these things all day. It was amazing. And so, just kind of a magical creature, and once you bring some bees to the set, the whole bees from the whole zip code are swarming you. They love each other a lot, and they support each other. And the other question was, oh, the room. Yeah, I mean, we wrote it again. It was kind of a very organic process, and at one point, we just wanted to know what was in the room, and we didn't know what was in the room. And was this going to turn into some sort of horrific reveal? Because he's certainly capable of strange things. And it was a mysterious room as we were evolving the story, and then we just found a place that felt very heartfelt yet disturbing. I mean, it's not the room of a healthy individual, but yet he's not really sick. He's just lost in his heart a little bit.
Okay, so we have some mics in the audience. Yeah, so if you raise your hand, they'll bring them to you. There's two people right down here in front.
Well, I can project loudly. I
can repeat
try.
the question if I can hear it.
Okay, so I have a question about in terms of structure of story. This is very much Manglehorn's point of view, but we have two scenes, one with Gary and Jacob, where they're relating stories from their youth about him. And I want to know about, in terms of structure, breaking that sort of first-person point of view, sort of the decision to take those scenes away from Manglehorn's point of view, and the reason for giving us that information through those characters.
Yeah, the question about the characters that we see tell stories about Manglehorn that aren't through his perspective. There's three instances. There's the caretaker of his granddaughter, there's his son, and then there's the Gary character. And that was an exercise we did. We did that with everybody on set. Every side character, I said to all the supporting actors, I said, come up with a story that's kind of believable, but really far out. And it's about something extraordinary that Manglehorn did. And so we would film, at the end of a day, we'd just turn a camera on. They're all just one shot setup kind of thing, and none of them are scripted. I had no idea what any of them were going to do. And then everybody would tell a fantastic story about Manglehorn because, one of the rules in screenwriting is you're supposed to show, not tell. Well, this was a movie that we were trying to really break all the rules intentionally and obnoxiously, so we wanted to just tell all these magical stories about him and wonder about him rather than really reveal or see anything super fantastic. I mean, the last 2 seconds of the movie is a little heightened, but for the most part, he's not that magical as we witness him, but maybe he was 15, 20 years ago. Maybe he used to be a magical man, and now he's just some dude that's a little cranky.
It was never developed when Claire was in position of his past, meaning before his wife or after his wife or when?
Yeah, Claire, his former love. I don't know that it's ever really established, but in my head at least, I'm not sure it's in the movie or in my head. Sometimes those worlds get confusing. She was before his wife, and it didn't work out. She wrote him a letter saying, for whatever reason, you've kept me at arm's length with your riddles and your weird, and so I'm gonna have to move on, and I don't think he was ever able to move on. So, in my head, he could never let go of that romantic notion of who Clara was, and he idealized her. He put her on a pedestal. He put love up on this, kind of this place that it was never going to realistically be, and then lived a life where he, was married, had kids. Who knows what the weird chapters of his life have been, but he's never been able to reach what his aspirations of love were. So I mean, it could be very early in life. Talking to Al, and looking at the photos of the woman that we use in the film, he was in his mid-20s, and it was the love of his life, and she got away, and instead of growing up and getting on like most of us do when that real sweet one slips by, he got locked in a cage of his heart.
Any other questions?
I think we have another one down here, so David might have to
Yeah.
repeat.
I could, so first of all, very awesome that you brought the aspect of every human need of feeling important into the movie. I feel that with Holly, she presented her character as somebody who was very um,
That-
very positive, and she was patient with him, trying to get him to kind of open up and stuff like that. But one of the things I just want to ask you, this is a very basic question, but what are what was the biggest challenge for you to overcome, through the whole process of of directing the movie?
The biggest challenge to overcome directing this movie? Mm, the bees were easy. No, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not a very dramatic answer, but it was like it was a. I've made a lot of movies, and this one was a pleasure. So some of them are a little rocky in terms of the many millions of things that can fall apart on particularly on an independently financed film. And you're making a movie like this not because you think it's going to blow the doors off the box office, but you make a movie like this because you have a strange intuition and something strikes you and you can't let go of an idea, and you push and pull until the movie gets made. I mean, we made it in like 25 days in Austin, Texas, where I live, and I could walk to set every day or ride my bike, and that was really cool. Al was a pleasure to work with, as was Holly and the rest of the cast. So it was, I mean, it was really made out of a special place, not engineered for any sort of impression on the world other than what we were feeling. With a small group of collaborators, friends of mine that have been working together with film school. The cinematographer, the production designer, the sound mixer. We've all been working together for 15 years and went to college together before that. So it's a really special, unique group of people. And when something goes wrong, like, I mean, I guess when it's raining and you wish it wasn't raining, you just go inside. So, we don't really stress out too much. We have a good time and work with solid people and try to make things we're passionate about.
Thank you very much.
What was the symbolism of the watermelon accident? And then
So,
the cat surgery, can you explain why you had so many minutes of showing the grass?
oh yeah, I got a good story for that one. So watermelons and cats. The watermelons. I remember as a kid reading these Richard Scarry books, and they always had these like there was like about cars and things, and they always like a pickle car, and they're all these weird like food and vehicles combined things. Richard Scarry, the
Yeah.
okay. And I just thought he was kind of a cool guy. And there was one thing that was I remember having like a violent reaction to. There was a watermelon truck in one of the animated stories, and it was disturbing to me because it looked like blood, and it was just watermelons, and I just kind of imagined it something else, and it was always a page I would skip over as a kid. Um, and so when we started putting the sequence together, we were thinking about what would be this weird, kind of trippy, strange accent that you would happen upon that would again be just within the realm of real, but a little heightened. We were thinking about if you just started seeing these blasts of red and a car accident, and one thing leads to another, and then you reveal that there's overturned watermelon truck. It's kind of just me. I use my work a lot as my own kind of strange therapy, and it was me getting over my childhood trauma of the page in the Rich and Scary book. Um, as for the cat surgery, boo. Aw. Boo. Well, you know what I think is important to, I, I think this movie explores the notions of love in various capacities, and I think a lot of people could say, ooh, watching Al Pacino and Holly Hunter across the bank teller window trying to connect, and they're really awkward, and they don't have the perfect screenwriter poetry to pronounce to each other. They're stumbling and muttering and being awkward and kind of connecting in a weird way. And another thing, I grew up with, my father was a doctor, and I always would listen to him, and he'd speak very clinically about things that sounded really disturbing, but he'd come home with great news after, a horrible accident that he'd, been a, had some positive result of something that sounded very disgusting and tragic to me, but he was very happy at the end of the day. And seeing the joy of someone in the medical profession that is a different kind of love. It's literally surgical love, putting the pieces of something living and maintaining that. As difficult as it is to watch, and as difficult as it's always been for me to hear about, I think it's a perfect juxtaposition to two people in their awkward courtship, to be able to be looking at two things that neither of them are necessarily graceful. I met, and when I was exploring the idea, in the script it just said his cat gets a surgery and they find the key, and that was just going to be a very discreet thing. And then I met this veterinarian, Dr. McLeod, and I started talking to him about, literally just for screenwriting purposes, what the process would be if a cat ate a key. And he said it actually had happened in his experience, and more often it would be a penny or something. But he had removed a key, and he went into this very vivid and colorful and entertaining story of what the surgical procedure was. And so just seeing his charisma as an individual, I said, well, would you mind if we use you in the movie? And so what we did was we spayed the cat. We filmed the cat getting spayed, because it needed to be spayed anyway for its owner. Its owner was going to do that. So I said, well, would you mind? And it's very similar once you're in that area of its anatomy, and then just have a close-up of the key, and voila, movie magic. And just something about that particular veterinarian made me want to put him in a movie. Like I do very frequently in my movies. I put non-actors or non-traditional performers in movies. And Dr. McLeod was perfect because he's kind of saying you're watching this stuff that's hard to watch. Although a lot of us have been desensitized to these kind of things on reality shows, but I still found it very grabbing being in the room. But he's saying it with such love and affection and strange humor, that it just even more conflict of emotion. And if there's a conflict of emotion, I want to film it and show it to you guys.
Wow. Coming.
All right, I was gonna say, I'm gonna hand this over.
Yeah, and then you
I'm
can
gonna
hand
reach.
it down, yeah,
Thank
and then
you.
you can hand it over. Okay, good.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I like the ending with the boat. I thought it was very freeing. He emptied his spaces physically, and he freed himself towards his son and towards, what was her name?
It's a Claire, yeah.
Yeah, and but I have to go home and kind of think about it. What was the turning point that afforded him that freedom? Or he intended to go on the boat with the cat and sort of end it off.
What was
yet,
the turning point that changed his mind to not go out to
Yeah.
sea? Well, it was probably a turning point in a writer trying not to be pretentious and make it so romantic that he would go to sea with the, no, I think it was when he got kissed on the head by his son, after calling him out and treating him like an asshole, and yet there was a moment of genuine affection, biological affection, chemistry with his son, and then that, to me, that's the turning point in talking to Al. That's when he realized he needs to clean house, or he's going to lose everything.
And the boat, because he intended to end it all with the boat, and here he
Right.
let the boat go.
And he was
with
gonna
Claire.
sail off to sea, but the boat actually, that wasn't in the script either. But I found this boat graveyard for the movie I did last year, and I had a scene with Nicolas Cage and this kid walking around this boat graveyard, And so when that boat actually showed up to set, I said, we should totally trash this boat in that graveyard and film that, because that'd be a cool way to send her off in a less sweet way, but in its own Manglehorn clumsy elegance. It would bring resolve to that.
So, where did you find the little girl, his granddaughter? She was
She's
fantastic.
amazing, isn't she,
She
Skylar?
really was.
Like, every now and then you just meet these kids. I mean, I work with kids as much as I can in movies, and I just find this really genuine, non-self-conscious quality. You don't see them in movies much because people like control. Directors love control. They love the power of being able to tell people what to say and how to say them and direct them to do this and that. But for me and kids, since my very first film was all kids, and I just love the idea of having a kid say what a kid's gonna say, and who am I to tell a kid what to say? Especially as a 7-year-old girl, who's full of life and energy and emotion like that girl, and who doesn't know who Al Pacino is and doesn't care. She's just happy to be on the playground and eating ice cream, take after take. I'm really fortunate to work with really good casting directors that literally find people on the street. You know, one of the stars of my last movie was a man that had been living on the streets for a number of years, and this movie, you know, the security guard of the bank is the guy that owns the barbecue restaurant I go to, and you know, so John and Carmen really just helped me find as many real people to layer into this. The vet, yeah.
And the singer, the duet.
Okay, and the duet, beautiful story, because that man passed away a couple weeks ago, and and he didn't get to see the movie, and I'm so pissed. But I cast a lot. I go to churches because there's so many opportunities for performance and eloquence and awkwardness and beauty in a sanctuary. You know, you have all sorts of people giving speeches for the first time, or a deacon comes out and says his thing, or the sermon, of course. And I was visiting. I was actually casting a different movie, and it was in a church. And those two singers came out and sang that song. And I said, we should put that in the movie. So we just cast them both and put them in the movie. In the script, I think it was an accordion, like a homeless accordion player, or something real witty and cute. And then I met these two and said, you got to come and sing the song on the bank, and it'll be its own strange little scene. Yeah.
We have time for one last question. Here.
I have to say I love all the symbolism in your movie, and I think anybody who's over the age of 20 has met probably someone like Manglehorn in their life, and knows somebody. They probably are thinking, I know somebody even for a moment or a lifetime like him. But everything where he was a hoarder of love. That's why he had that room, and he didn't want anyone to see it. I think we all kind of knew it was behind the door. And then to set that ship, USS Clara, sail, I think that was just so beautiful. And I love what you said about that girl, because we have a 7-year-old, and there's so many times where we say, gosh, I wish we were videotaping her say that. That was perfect. And we looked at each other and said, that's something our daughter would say, and it was very real. Can I ask you, the key that they took out of the cat, was it the key to the safe box?
Yeah.
Okay, it was, all right.
Key to the cat, key to the safe. The cat was trying to probably protect him from that letter.
Yeah.
So he ate it.
He ate it.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. The movie's coming out in June, so if you like it, tell your friends. If you don't,